Shalom. All praise goes to the Most High Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Bahar Rakakudash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, apostles Tahar, Gabar, Bakar, Aramlab, and a shalom to all the sincere Achim that are pushing this real sincerity and the truth. I'm gonna make a video about this Europe uniting against Trump. As you know, what we regularly say is that economic warfare is also one of the phases of war. You have the demonization of your enemy. Afterwards, you have the economic sanctions and tariffs and things like that. There's just a phase of war before the real physical war starts. And Esau knows this, man. But people are like, hey, this is only gonna go to sanctions and stuff like that. But there's actually a physical dropping of bombs that's gonna come too, man. So that's also gonna come. Even if you think that Europe was always down with America and this and that, eventually they there for their own interests, man. And if they can't do their own interests, they're basically gonna drop America. They're gonna drop They're gonna drop America, man. As an ally, and that's in the scriptures as well. So let me read the scripture, by the way, before I go into that. I believe in Mark 4, because these are Edomites as well. This is Mark 3:23. And he called them unto him and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Alright? And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand, but hath an end. So that shows you that even though they're together and stuff like that, this is not gonna work. Europe is not gonna come together with America and be one strong nation again, or be strong as they were, allied and strong. The only thing they basically have in common is they're part of NATO, which is the military body of Esau, the beast. That's the only thing they have going for themselves. But in Daniel it says, this kingdom shall be partly strong and partly weak. Just as clay doesn't mix with iron. So the article says Europe must unite against Trump's policies. Germany. All right. This is the picture you see is of this man is German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas attends the former French gendarme Daniel Nevel's award ceremony of the Order of Merit of the Federal Republic of Germany. Federal Cross of Merit at the residence of the German ambassador in Paris on October 16, 2018, photo by AFP. German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas on Wednesday urged European countries to respond to US President Donald Trump's protectionist economic policies and unilateralist diplomacy with Europe united. We must find an answer to the motto America first on this side. On this side of the Atlantic, and to me and to us, it's clear that the response can only be Europe united, Maas told reporters in Berlin, referring to Trump's most famous catchphrase all along his campaign trail. We Europeans must cooperate even more closely, which also means investing more into our own ability to act. That applies when it's about fighting back punitive tariffs, and it applies to security issues or the fight against climate change, he went on to say. Mas also pointed to the U.S. midterm elections in which Democrats managed to take the House of Representatives from Republicans and said he expected Democrats to use their newfound power to influence Trump's policies more heavily. We'll see to what extent that will has an impact. We hope that this cooperation will be constructive and lead to constructive results in international politics. We will very intensively look to contact those who were newly elected, Mas noted. The German foreign minister has time and again warned about the consequences of Trump's unilateralist approaches toward other countries, urging fellow EU member states to unite against the US policies. Let me write down the word unilateral. Unilateral. Is one eenzijdig. Meaning of an action or decision performed by or affecting only one person, group, or country involved in a situation without the agreement of another or the others, relating to affecting only one side of an organ, the body, or another structure. So it's only for them, basically. It only works for them. Salakia. Gone. So Trump's decision to restrict imports from the European Union and his withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement, the Paris Climate Accord, and the UN Commission on Human Rights, among others, have dealt a heavy blow to ties between Washington and European countries. Let me read that again. Trump's decision to restrict imports from the European Union and his withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement, the Paris Climate Accord, and the UN Commission on Human Rights, among others, have dealt a heavy blow to ties between Washington and the European countries. So, look, man, that's why you gotta read, man. Because if I hadn't read it, I wouldn't know. So now we basically know that Esau, how do you say that? Yeah, Trump. Trump did not only withdraw from the GCPOA, but he's also withdrawing from all these partnerships that he has with Esau, like the Trans-Pacific Partnership I just read, trade agreement, and the Paris Climate Accord, which, he said he doesn't believe in global warming and stuff like that and all that nonsense. He doesn't want money to go into that nonsense. They they come with some bullshit ass thing, but meanwhile they're discussing other things, man. They call it Paris Climate Accord, but it probably is something else, Partnership, Trans-Pacific Partnership. Trans-Pacific Partnership. Okay. Let me check Wikipedia for once. Let me see. Trans-Pacific Partnership. Trans-Pacific Partnership. Trade Agreement. Trans-Pacific Partnership is a defunct proposed trade agreement between Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, Vietnam, United States signed on 4 February, which was not ratified as required and did not take effect. Let me read more about it. Yeah, he was doing a lot of things. He was abandoning a lot of these deals that what's this, man, that they basically had for years, you know. TPP, what is it and why does it matter? That's what I'm here to find out, man. US President Donald Trump made abandoning the Trans-Pacific Partnership (TPP) trade deal a key part of his election campaign, and on his first day in office, he has proved as good as his word. But what was the TPP designed to do, and does it have any future without the US? TPP in a nutshell: 12 countries that border the Pacific Ocean signed up to the TPP in February 2016, representing roughly 40% of the world's economic output. The pact aimed to deepen economic ties between these nations, slashing tariffs and fostering trade to boost growth. Members had also hoped to foster a closer relationship on economic policies and regulations. The agreement was designed so that it could eventually create a new single market, something like that of the EU. But all 12 nations needed to ratify it before it could come into effect. Once Donald Trump won last year's election, the writing was on the wall for the TPP. US participation was the major linchpin for the deal. It may be possible for the other countries to forge a smaller scale pact in its place, but it can't go ahead in its current form. Those other member states are Japan, the only country to have already ratified the pact, Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore, Brunei, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Mexico, Chile, and Peru. And if you check, yeah. So basically, Japan only wanted to deal with America, only if America was in it. That shows you the power that America basically has over Japan, man. But eventually they're gonna go against America as well, man. For and against. So yeah, man, this is basically what they doing, man. They they making it harder for all these other nations that are trading with them, man. You know, so they're not happy, man. When you start touching people's pockets, they don't like it, you know, and that's what's eventually gonna lead to war because they're gonna see that America is so selfish that basically is gonna mess up everything for them, and they're not gonna have it, man. You know, like so the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement and the Paris Climate Accord. The heaviest one was the GCPOA, man, from the Iran nuclear accord, right? Nuclear deal. UN Commission on Human Rights, Paris Climate Accord. The Paris Agreement. Here it is. So this is what America is doing, man. Look at the proud piece of shit that he is, actually, man. Self-centered, man. 1 year since Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement. Under brilliant sunshine and blue skies, 1 year ago today, President Donald Trump stood at the podium in the Rose Garden to announce the United States would be withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement, with Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt beaming in the front row. Trump described the pact, signed by every single other nation on Earth, as an agreement that disadvantages the United States, the exclusive benefit of other countries. You see that? Let me read it again. With Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt beaming in the front row, Trump described the pact signed by every single other nation on Earth. So everyone signed this, he says, as an agreement that disadvantages the United States to the exclusive benefit of other countries. So basically, it's not a benefit to them. So if it's a benefit to only other nations and they can't benefit from it, they're not in it, man. You know, a year on there on a year on, there are three key questions remaining about our nation's choice to leave the accord. First, what drove Trump's decision? Second, what have been the impacts of the U.S. announcement of withdrawal, both here at home and around the world? Finally, and most importantly, what are the steps forward for policies aimed at combating climate change given the administration's conflicting agenda and the Paris withdrawal? That's to say, what are the most productive avenues for action? Why the U.S. went rogue and its impacts? What led Trump to withdraw from Paris on the campaign trail? Trump's position against U.S. participation in multilateral actions of any sort, and of climate accords in particular, grew more strident. In line with his early tweets that climate change was the greatest hoax perpetuated by the Chinese to hamstring our economy, Trump developed a posture that asserted American dominance and unwillingness to be influenced by foreign governments. So they want to say sanction this and and blocking this and stuff like that, and threatening other countries, but they won't allow other countries to involve to tell them anything, and that's the hegemony that they want to keep, which hegemony means the head position. you know Isaiah, let me see if I can find it, man. This Isaiah 47:8. Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwelleth carelessly, that sayest in thy heart, I am, and none else besides me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. So they want to be there and no one beside them. They want to be the head, man. And you can't be winning. You can't keep winning always, man. The only one that can win always is the Most High, man. So I have Proverbs. No, Proverbs 21. Proverbs 21. Sorry, yeah. Let me get Daniel. See, that's what is angering these other nations. It's already war, man. It just has to be manifested in physical dropping of bombs. So this matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and set it up over it the basest of men, and the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, So basically, he decides what happens, He decides what happens. He decides if they're all gonna come together or gonna separate from each other, That's what the Most High decides, you know. Um, Khan, it will preserve business with Iran and avoid renewed American sanctions, you know. However, tensions escalated between the two sides after Trump withdrew the US from the Iran nuclear deal and reimposed unilateral sanctions on Tehran. But the EU announced it will preserve business with Iran and avoid renewed American sanctions. So eventually there's a big divide already, man. EU is gonna keep dealing with Iran, but America is gonna stop dealing with Iran. You know, Press TV, US EU rift deepens over Iran sanctions. In defiance of US policies, European countries have declared they would not cooperate with Washington on Iran sanctions and promised to facilitate payments related to Iran exports as part of efforts to salvage Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action after the US withdrawal. So yeah, man. So with that, I'm gonna say all praise go to the Most High, Yahweh Shem Shai, Wahawakakodash. Double answer the apostles of great millstone. Shalom.